Today we've got setups for Sol, Ethereum, Chainlink and BNB Binance token, plus stick around until the end as I've also got a nice setup for low cap token API3. But let's jump in. Hi, I'm Paul with ArcisFX. We got 5 altcoin setups for you this week. This is Solana USDT 4-hour chart. And the big picture is, if we just switch to the daily chart, is essentially we are in this large ascending triangle, which is made up of price action dating back all the way to around 2021, the previous bull run. And now we are retesting this lower support line for the first time since April this year. So this is the higher time frame premise, but let's zoom back into the 4-hour to see what opportunities we've got. So obviously we know now that Solana is at this significant support area, this diagonal support below, and we potentially have a double bottom forming. Now, the breakout to confirm the double bottom did give us a higher high just on the back of this higher low, giving us the first suggestion that this downtrend may be switching back to an uptrend. However, the breakout of the neckline of the double bottom wasn't a strong break. It's only just popped its head above the parapet, so to speak, and now we're heading lower. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the pattern isn't going to play out, but obviously the market is very hesitant at the moment, and therefore we have these 2 potential entrance points for Sol. So if you're one of the people who prefer to wait for bullish confirmation, then you'll obviously want to wait for another stronger break above the neckline of the double bottom, which of course is just this line, just to make it really clear. And then with a significant break, a very clear, defined, rubber-stamped higher high here compared to this one, of course, right? So this is a lower high compared to that one. This is a lower high compared to this one, and that is a lower low compared to this one. But this is a higher low compared to this one, and that is a higher high compared to this one. We just need a slightly better one first. And then if we do see a break up here, we can look to come in on the flip side like this, and then potentially to move up from here. So that is essentially this play here with a stop loss just underneath the pattern and a take profit up here at around $204, $205. So that's that play. But of course, the market is very hesitant, and Bitcoin still itself is trying to confirm a similar reversal pattern. And if it can't and Bitcoin heads lower, then of course we could expect another move back down to this lower support to confirm potentially a triple bottom of sorts. Both have pros and cons. One waits for bullish confirmation, which more buyers will then enter the market on seeing that, but also we'll still have quite a few buyers looking to accumulate at this support level because, as we highlighted at the start, it's very significant higher time frame support. So you've got 2 options. You've got the lower entry for Sol, which we might be heading back down towards, or we wait for a breakout. Now, of course, there may be a third option, which could be around this line here, which is around $130, which would again allow us to maintain that trend by still having another higher low and then maybe move up from here. So this might be a trade which you might want to scale into, starting at around 130 and then with your final position coming in at around 122, 120, and then try and scoop up the price action like this and then head higher from here. And then if you do get the break, you could potentially add another position once we get the confirmation of the break and the retest of the neckline of the double or potentially triple bottom. But those are your 3 options with Sol, lots to choose from, and all of them are pretty decent and pretty manageable. So this is Ethereum USDT daily compared to Ethereum USDT 6-hour chart. So on the daily chart, we have this descending channel and we've broken out of it on the back of a double bottom, a clearly defined higher low, followed by a higher high and a breakout. The textbook play here would be to wait for a retrace back down to support at around 2,842, which again is a bit of a bump and run play, and then move up from here. Now that's a really safe play, really manageable, because of course we're coming in at very important support. If I just squeeze this down, you can see how this area at 2842 was significant resistance and has been significant support. So it's a pretty manageable entry. But the reason why I've got the 6-hour chart highlighted is because the 6-hour is still in a descending channel itself, despite also having, of course, the double bottom represented and clearly visualized and the higher high confirming the trend change. But we have the 200 MA on the 6-hour coming down fast as resistance confluence with this upper diagonal trend line of the channel. Therefore, if you are one of these people, as we were just talking about with Sol, who typically comes in on the retest of the double bottom neckline, then the 6-hour chart may give you pause about doing that. Now, the double bottom neckline is essentially at around 3,070, give or take, and we may move up from there. But the reasoning behind not doing that on the daily chart is because we still have resistance overhead on the lower time frame 6-hour chart, and therefore you would expect, if we don't see a break from here, that we're going to have a retrace back down to, again, there's 2482 as it is on this time frame. So a retrace within this pattern would still give us that nice confluence of a retest of the flip side of this diagonal trend line, as well as coming in at hard support, as opposed to putting ourselves out on a limb by trying to come in on the neckline while we still haven't had a break out on the 6-hour chart. Therefore, that's the reasoning for coming in essentially on the retest of support here at 2842 and not the neckline of the double bottom. Now, we may see that, for example, the price action here could retest that level. As we said, it's about 3,070 and then move up from here. And then, of course, if you see that, if we do get a break of the pattern on the 6-hour chart, then you can reevaluate your entry position on the daily and potentially look for an entrance a little bit higher. But whilst Ethereum USDT 6-hour is still in this pattern, you have to presume a retrace back down to 2842, and that'll be the ideal entrance. So a pretty good setup with Ethereum as well. But just a reminder, these setups are hand-picked coins and tokens with real trading potential based on technical analysis and probabilities, available on both centralized and decentralized exchanges. The altcoin market follows Bitcoin's direction, so don't miss context. Make sure you subscribe to catch our latest Bitcoin update video for the full picture before you trade. And we also have a new members-only Crypto Pulse series with Friday's release each week dedicated to checking in with Bitcoin and its most recent price action, which will hopefully act as a nice companion piece to this video. So be sure to check that out each week if you're not already a member. Next up, we've got our hero token from last week's altcoin gems with a slightly different setup. We had some nice moves on the back of last week's setup, but this one now is about capitalizing on the second move following this breakout. So this is the 4-hour chart, and we essentially have two potential lines in the sand for a long trade entry, but these two X's highlighting where ideally you want to be looking to scale into this trade. It's the best play, really. And again, we've got these double bottoms with these higher highs on the back of a higher low, and we've got this neckline. Now, the first play, of course, as we've talked about with the last two tokens, is coming in to buy the retest of the neckline. And if Bitcoin moves up from where it is, that play will work out really nicely, no problem. But as Bitcoin hasn't confirmed yet some of its higher time frame reversal patterns, you might want to expect a slightly deeper retrace back down to support, which of course is below the neckline of the double bottom, but it's still going to allow us to have another higher low. And of course, it does allow the price action then to retest this diagonal trend line on the flip side, which of course bulls will typically want to do before a move up. So that's the sort of thing we'll be looking for. But of course, we don't want to miss out on a bounce from the neckline, which is why I'm suggesting a scaling in strategy. So you may decide not to enter at the first X, which is essentially $13.50, the neckline of this double bottom, with your entire position, and just enter maybe 30% here. And then if you get a bounce from here, you still have profits, not on your entire position, of course, but you still have a nice run up, and that's a win. But then if the price action does head lower from here, once you've entered your first position, you can then enter another position, another 30% or so on the retest of this diagonal resistance, what should be now support, and then you can wait for another move up from here. And then if you do get a break again, you can potentially look for another entrance as we retest that double bottom on our way up, essentially entering your entire position and then benefiting from the profits on the back of it. And these sort of market conditions really do lend themselves to scaling in, because it gives you a lot of flexibility. And of course, if the market does turn, but you've only entered with a smaller amount of your intended position, which gives you a lot more options as well. So it's, again, scaling in uses crypto's inherent volatility to our advantage. So even though you could, of course, come in with your whole position on the neckline, that would be very textbook, you have to bear in mind that buyers have not yet had chance to retest the flip side of this diagonal trend line following the breakout, which may lure some buyers all the way back down to here. And if we just have a look at the order blocks, we can see probably that's what people are thinking. And yes, there they are. So that might be the best play. 30% here, 30% here, and then when we have another confirmed move up, you can look to add another 30% once we've definitely confirmed we're on our way higher. But that's Link.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm the founder of ArcisFX. I'd like to personally invite you to join our 24/7 trading group. This is built for traders who want an edge. Inside, you'll get access to live calls on Forex, commodities, crypto, energies, and metals, along with exclusive daily analysis designed to unlock your trading potential. And this in both traditional and now in digital markets. I'm talking Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, and tethered currencies. You'll gain early access to insider news, real-time updates, real-time support, and premium educational content. If you want to sharpen your skills and boost your success rate, then join me and Paul in this community. This is a fast-growing community of traders who are now writing their own success stories. So don't wait. Join up now. Your edge starts right here.
Next up, we've got BNB, Binance Token, USDT 4-hour chart. And again, it's double bottom week, you would see. We've got this lovely descending channel. And again, a lovely double bottom with a confirmed break and a move from a downtrend to an uptrend with this higher high and a higher low. But we have run fast into this 200 MA on the 4-hour, the 200 MA on the 4-hour being the first time frame for the 200 MA to carry some significance in terms of support and resistance. So what does this mean for the price action? Well, again, just like with Link and the other tokens we've been looking at today, we do have a couple of entrance levels to accommodate what potentially the market gives us. We obviously have this double bottom. Now the neckline of this double bottom is actually technically up here, but that's a little bit too close to resistance to make that a viable entry point. As you see, we only just popped our head above that level, so we could ignore that for now. The most obvious next retrace level, which he seems to be heading back to at the moment, would be around 870. And then of course, if Bitcoin moves up from there, should be able to very easily break above the 200 MA, which would be another bullish signal we can trade off. However, entering here is still pretty close to resistance in no man's land between support and resistance, and therefore you may want to either consider again a scaling in strategy, so you come in here at around 870 with a portion of your intended position on the presumption that we're going to come down a little bit and try and scoop up then another dip to around what looks like to be about 830, and then try and ride it up from there. And again, with the 200 MA fast coming in, we want to be able to get above that as well. And then once you've got above that, you can maybe look to enter your third position again on the way up. So really manageable play in these risky times. But you may consider to do what I'm planning to do, which is to take a position at around 830, simply because of the proximity at the moment to this entrance. So depending on your approach will depend on where you come in, but I'll be intending to enter at around 830 here with my first position. And then once we break above the 200 MA, so I'll enter here essentially, I'll then look to enter a second part of my position once we've got over the 200 MA, and then we look to ride it up from here. But ultimately, when we see reversals like this and breakouts of these descending channels, this whole area is an accumulation zone for buyers to start entering their positions. And you've got to understand that traders aren't going to be just hard buying all of these with their full intended position, not in the market at the moment. They're going to enter on the retraces, and then once the bullish signals stack up, as I said, like we get a move above the 200 MA, they'll start to add their positions, and that is what propels the price action higher. It's a cascade. It's not like a switch where we go from bear to bull, right? You know, we get the bullish signal stacking up, and then more people enter their positions, more people see green, and then they enter it, and then we move up from there. And of course, BNB has had quite a significant retrace, and we're actually at a lower price point the last few weeks than the bottom of the October crypto crash. So very low prices for BNB at the moment, so lots of opportunities, but your first entrance would be about 870, but if you're a little bit more cautious like me, you'll start to look to enter at around 830, and then again, once we've got over the 200 MA. But that's BNB. And finally today, we've got a low cap API3 USDT 4-hour chart. So this is definitely low cap, and you can tell it's a low cap because of these incredible moves, and this is the sort of thing we're looking to capitalize off. Now, just to clarify where we are essentially at long-term support, if we ignore, of course, the October crash, which really devastated this token very briefly, pulling it all the way back down to around $0.16. But we have long since recovered, which is what low caps can do very easily and very quickly, with just a little bit of volume and a little bit of liquidity. And we have a double bottom within this pattern forming. Now, the difference between this and the other tokens are we haven't yet had a confirmed change from a downtrend to an uptrend. We do have a base, we do have technically a higher low, but we don't have the higher high, and we're waiting for that. And there is also a little bit of ambiguity about this channel as well, with a couple of different resistance lines. But the beauty of this, again, is we've got the 200 MA and the 4-hour coming in to also act as resistance confluence, meaning if we can get out of this pattern, we can get above the 200 MA, and we all know what happens when we get above the 200 MA. We start having some lovely bullish price action, and because we're very low at support, we have this lovely confluence between being at long-term support, being in a descending channel on the back of a double bottom, and if we can break out of here, it's a really good trading opportunity. And even though this is a very volatile asset, and we could see some gains all the way up here, we want to be quite modest in our TP, which is looking to take profits at around $0.8, $0.84. So what are you looking for? You're looking for a strong break, certainly a move into this upper range, ideally into the next one because it's low cap. You've got to look at its price moves in that context. They should be quite big with bullish moves, and then ideally surpassing that swing high, getting above the 200 MA, and then once that happens, you can start to look to come in at various entrance points. Now, of course, again, same conversation. You could come in for the neckline of the double bottom, right, which would be here at around 0.58 once we've had confirmation of a break, or you can be a little bit more wary, and then once we've had a break, look to come in on the retest of what was this diagonal resistance line with nice confluence with this support line, and then look to ride the move up from there. And that level would be essentially around 0.51, which would allow us to have another higher low in the price action. So there's a low, a higher low, and another higher low, maintaining the trend on the back of what we hope would be a higher high, and then we can hopefully ride it up to there. And if it does move, it'll go pretty quickly, as we can see previously. But of course, it's very Bitcoin dependent, and the reason why you want to wait for a break of this channel at the very least is because unless that happens, we could very easily just roll over like this. And there is a danger of that with low caps, because if Bitcoin does make a bearish move or invalidate its current recovery play, then this double bottom will fast be invalidated, hence why we have a red line at around 0.49 telling me that if the price action does descend below this, then that double bottom would be invalidated, as well as, of course, this bullish play. So we're waiting for a strong breakout. Buy the breakout of the channel with 200 MA, and then we're looking for an ideal entrance, which will either be the neckline of the double bottom at around 0.58, depending on your approach, but I'll be looking for a slightly lower entrance at around 0.51, 0.5. But that's API3. But for more winning setups like this, please consider subscribing and also hit that like button and let us know in the comments what altcoins you're thinking of trading this week. We also have a private group you can join that posts charts like this throughout the week. But that's it for now. You can catch James on Sunday for his weekly stocks and commodities live streams, and you can also check out our crypto focus stream from yesterday, and we really got into it, so definitely worth a watch if you missed it. And I'll be back, of course, on Tuesday with Bitcoin Update. Hope to see you there.